What's the seventh word you can't say?
Oh
Fuck,
my
cunt,
god.
shit, motherfucker.
Tits.
That's crazy.
Cut what?
That's not really a word.
Tits be tough. Tots be
It's
tits.
a verb.
So how long you guys been dating now? What are you guys up to?
Well, you don't have any protection whatsoever, and it's really very sad. And
3 months.
Wow.
3 months?
Yeah.
Wow. Did you get?
Okay, that's enough of that, David.
Did you get
With
busy?
justice.
Did you visit her taco stand?
Yes.
To be honest.
Oh, man.
That's none of your business.
Is it a cheesy taco?
All right, let's start the show.
I make it cheesy.
Let's start the show right now.
Nothing like
Pigs.
white sauce on
I
the,
open the passage to the Milky Way.
white sauce on the taco.
Hey. Add some ranch or sour
my
cream,
God.
whichever you prefer.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Oh my god, look at her face.
Oh my god, right now.
She's all red. She's like a red balloon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad.
You're matching your shirt.
This is the way comedy is, right?
That's it.
All right,
my bad.
put you on
Okay.
Facebook,
I
we'll
made
start.
fun of her in my set of Crescenzo and Friends. She
Oh,
Ready?
damn.
Are you ready? It's 9:41 already.
We're ready.
I've been ready.
Ready, all
Okay,
set.
I'm talking to David. I know you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, let me do your music. Hold on.
All right.
My earrings hurt my ears now.
So take your earrings off.
I'm doing that.
Here goes
You guys gonna make out right there while the show is on?
That's distracting right now.
And you're embarrassed?
I'm not embarrassed.
No, he doesn't embarrass.
I'm embarrassed.
Here's your music, guys.
Thank you.
Make out. Yeah, you embarrassed me.
Yeah.
The American dream.
Is dead.
It's dead.
Look at those numbers. It doesn't exist, folks.
Do you have one that says, look at my African American over there?
Probably somewhere.
Mexico.
Oh yeah, that's the big thing.
Kai, Donnie, Don. Rubio. That's right. Thank you.
Oh wait, here it is.
I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words. But there's no better word than stupid. Right?
Pretty much fits in pretty well.
There isn't.
Yeah.
We don't win anymore.
His voice is up.
It's so annoying.
Oh,
We owe China.
he hasn't talked about China in a while. It's all Russia,
For China.
Mexico.
He does Mexico all the time.
The Mexican government.
Yeah.
When do we beat Mexico at the border? They're laughing at
do
us,
this
at our
one.
stupidity. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. We will build that wall.
Oh, what was that? I hate when commercials go on. Hey, it's a WEISCRACKIN show. It's
Hey.
what's
Having
up?
fun with our son soundboard.
Yeah, we are. But when commercials pop up on like that
Well,
TikTok
that's
thing,
because the soundboard is free.
right?
Right, because we didn't want to pay for 20 soundboards.
We didn't.
No.
So we made our own.
That's right. All right, so David, do you realize what day it is today?
Wait. Before we start, happy 15th birthday to my son Evan.
Happy birthday, Evan.
He's out with grandma and mom and,
Yes.
having fun. I'll see him Saturday.
Right.
So happy 15th birthday. He's a good kid. Evan's
Yes.
a good kid.
Yes,
so.
very good. You should have the clapping noise.
I don't know where it is. It's okay. So
I'm
we don't
bored
need a
too.
copy noise for him. All right. So where are we?
Okay.
What's going on?
So right now, we are on day 726 of the Trump administration, and somehow, miraculously, we have survived.
Right.
I would have thought by now that,
We'd be
there
dead.
would be the gun battles in the street now, killing all the
right.
liberals. And the government has been shut down for 24 days, 17
Has it been
hours.
24 days?
Yeah, it's now the longest government shutdown in history.
American history.
In
That's
American
right.
history.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and also, it's 658 days until the next election.
That can't come soon enough.
I know, and that's if like we shout out to Bob Seska if he's listening, but we were listening to Bob Seska and saying like what kind of damage can be done in the next 2 years?
Right. Well,
I
with
mean,
the strike right now, with the shutdown,
Yeah.
a lot of things are being affected, but there's one big thing is the FDA is not inspecting.
Exactly.
They're not doing what the FDA does by inspecting food and going to where food is processed. That's just not being done.
That's super important that you inspect the food. We have to know what is going into
right.
the food and if it's infected with E. coli. I mean, that actually kills people.
Right.
Yeah.
But Trump doesn't care. We know that Trump just cares about himself
Right.
and his stupid fucking wall that will never ever get built.
No, because Nancy Pelosi is not going to let that
No,
wall
she's
get
not going
built.
to let it happen.
And she never ever said that it would ever be anything.
Right.
You know?
And it's funny that he doesn't have a name for her.
No, he has no nickname for her.
He calls everybody else whatever, Little Rubio and
Yeah, he called it crying Chuck Schumer.
crying Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have a name for
Little
Nancy.
Marco.
I think that he met his match with Nancy
I think
Pelosi.
he fears
Right.
Nancy.
I think he does.
I really do. Even though she's a very slight woman, I think she's very formidable.
She's very powerful. She's a very powerful woman. She's the most powerful Democrat in Washington.
She's the most powerful woman in the United States right now.
Right, she is definitely.
And she's third in line to the presidency.
That's right.
So if Pence goes down too, she's your president.
It's an avalanche of what's going on right now.
Yeah. So let me talk a little bit about that. This is news just from today.
Okay, just from today.
And I don't even know if we're going to get through the whole thing, to be honest with you.
Gene, we need more time.
Okay. So Trump discussed withdrawing the U.S. from NATO with senior administration officials several times in 2018, saying he didn't see the point of the military alliance, which has been in place since 1949. National security officers believe that Russia is focused on undermining the alliances so Putin can have the freedom to behave as he wishes and invade other countries. Because he already invaded Crimea. He annexed Crimea, and NATO went after him because of that.
But doesn't Trump know the most about everything? He has
Yes,
the
I think
best
we
words?
should. Let's play that clip.
All right, where's
It's
that?
on board
That's in
3.
3. All right, 1 second. Here it is.
Nobody knows this stuff better than me. Nobody knows more about taxes than I do, and income than I do. Nobody knows more about construction than I do. Nobody knows more about campaign finance
Nobody.
than I do.
No, it's amazing.
About drones than anybody. Nobody knows much more about technology, this type of technology, certainly, than I do.
Nobody knows more about technology
It's
than
amazing.
Nobody's in the history of this country. has
History of the
ever known
country.
So much about infrastructure as Donald Trump. I know the H-1B. I know the H-2B. Nobody knows it better than me. I know more about ISIS than the general.
No, you don't.
I understand things. I comprehend very well.
No, you don't.
Okay? Better than, I think, almost anybody. And by the way, who knew the other side of the picture better than me? I knew it. Nobody knows more about environmental impact statements than me. I understand the power of Facebook. Maybe better than.
It's just
almost
not
anybody.
true.
I know more about renewables than any human being on Earth. Nobody knows more about polls than me.
And they
I know
buy
more
into
about
this.
courts than any human being on Earth. I know more about steelworkers than anybody that's ever run for office. I know more about golf than Obama knows.
Nobody knows more about banks than I do.
Nobody
Right.
knows more about trade than me.
That
well,
might be
obviously,
true.
he doesn't know about
That might be
nuclear
true.
weapons. I know more about nuclear weapons than he'll ever know. I understand the tax laws better than almost.
How to get
everyone.
around
He
the
knows more
tax
about
laws,
lawsuits
maybe.
Than I do. I'm the king.
It's very
I know
true.
More about offense and defense than they will ever understand. And nobody even understands it but me. It's called devaluation.
I understand money better than anybody.
No, you don't.
Losing money.
Nobody knows more about debt than I do. Nobody knows
That's
the
true.
game better than me.
I know more about
Yeah, he knows about.
contributions than anybody.
And who knows more about the word apprentice than Donald Trump? I understand politicians better than anyone.
No, you don't.
Nobody knows politicians better than me. Who knows the other side better than me? Who knows the other side better
Putin
than
does.
me? I think I know more about the other side than almost anybody. And I understand the other side.
No, you don't.
Perhaps I understand it better than anybody else. I was the fair-haired boy. Nobody knows more about it than me. I know more than these politicians. These guys don't know anything. I know a lot. I know more than I'm ever going to tell you.
All right. Did you guys see the Bird Box?
I'm actually a modest person.
That thing on Netflix? Essentially, they're
He
going.
said he's actually a modest person.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he puts his name on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, modest bird. Okay, so we saw the Bird Box. It
Yeah.
was 2 hours in our life we'll never get back. Essentially,
I liked the movie.
it was
I thought good.
it was all right. Do not do the Bird Box challenges. Kids now driving around with blindfolds on.
Yes.
doing the Bird Box Challenge. Did you see the Bird Box,
I
Gene?
don't get it. People are just having accidents and falling and. I don't
Well,
get
they
it.
always do dumb stuff
They
like
always
that.
do
Remember
dumb
when they were
shit.
getting out of the car and dancing with their car running?
Yeah. I like when people get run over by their own cars on that one. That's
I know,
pretty funny
that
to
was
me.
really, I like that. That's entertaining.
That's awesome. But it's kind of like that. This is what it's like talking to a Trump supporter because there's all this mounting evidence by top investigators and everything's coming out and they're walking around with blindfolds on. We don't see anything. We know nothing about Trump with Russia. We know what you're talking
I know,
about.
and I don't understand what the motivation
It's
is.
astounding.
Except that if you are a billionaire or even a millionaire, I would totally understand you voting in that way.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because you want to hold on to your money.
But
But
if
if you are
that's what's-
not a millionaire, I
Right.
do not understand why you would do it.
No, we have you know what it is? He hates the right people.
Yes. Well, let's get into that. Okay.
Get into that.
So, Robert Mueller.
I have
All right. The update today with Robert Mueller is that Robert Mueller's team was requesting an in-person follow-up session with Trump. The request is made after Trump submitted those written answers. Remember?
He wrote them in crayon.
He's like, even Rudy Giuliani typed those up.
If there's one person I can't stand besides Trump, it's Giuliani.
I know. Well, the reason that we can't stand him is because we watch these mafia videos where he was actually a smart guy.
You ever remember the back in the 80s, Gene, with the mafia and being brought down
the
and Rico and all that?
And you watch him and you're like, my goodness, he was badass.
This is how Trump's going to be taken down. It's all going to be part of Rico. And
Yeah,
I
but
would like to see
Rudy-
Giuliani fall right
I
into
just wonder
that.
what Russia has on him. For
On
him to
Giuliani?
for him to
They
turn
have
like
something.
that.
It's so funny because who said it? They traveled and they maybe bumped into 2 Russians. The Trump administration has been in contact with hundreds of Russians.
I don't know that I've ever met a Russian. Like, well, you have.
I have.
Was you Alex?
David, what are you doing? David, why do you crash my ambulance? I'll put you in gulag. That's how you were talking to me.
Dude, like when you ran over the screw.
David, why did you run over a screw in the road at 5 o'clock in the morning? Ouch, I
You have
didn't
to
see
change
it.
the tire yourself.
David, you have to change tire. I'll stick you in gulag.
Right. I mean, I worked with a girl from the Ukraine.
Russian
that's about
Jews,
as
and
fast
he was
as
a
I.
fucking cheap
That's
bastard.
as. I know. All right. So anyway, off of Rudy Giuliani. So you remember, like they did those questions, the written questions.
Yes.
Well, now they want to do a follow up to that, and they.
I plead the fifth.
Right. So Mueller. So the two sides were reportedly at an impasse with no meaningful discussion in roughly 5 weeks.
Wow.
They can't get him there.
They can't get him there.
No.
He's too busy.
Now, do you remember Rick Gates?
Yes.
Okay, so Rick Gates, he's cooperating with Mueller. He
Right.
was a part of that whole thing. He was supposed to have a hearing today for sentencing,
Right.
but what Mueller said, his team said, is that Rick Gates is still cooperating with federal prosecutors on several ongoing investigations.
They
So,
are going to...
In a status report filed by Mueller, the special counsel and the Gates defense team are asking a federal judge to again delay his sentencing. He has more to offer.
There's more to offer. Okay.
Yeah. Right? So here's a good story for the day that
There's been a
we
witch hunt.
a lot of witches, right?
A lot of witches on that wall.
So our favorite Californian, Devin Nunes.
I hate him.
I know.
Hate him.
I do too.
He's so-
slimy.
So he's
Ugh.
such a scumbag. And,
Who do you hate more, Ted Cruz or Devin Nunes?
oh, man.
Like if you had to, if you had to F, marry, kill, I'd say Devin Nunes, Michael
Marry-
Cohen.
Fuck, marry, kill?
No, wait. Yeah. So F, marry, kill, Devin Nunes, Ted Cruz, and Rudy Giuliani.
None. I would just kill myself. Because if those are my 3 choices, if that's what I have left, no, I'm good.
Okay.
You're cheating.
So that is kind of a cheat. Okay. So Mueller and federal prosecutors in Manhattan are looking at a meeting involving Devin Nunes, Michael Flynn.
Okay,
Michael Flynn.
Mhm.
We should really have him saying lock her up.
Lock
'cause,
her
I
up.
mean, I
Right,
think
right,
it's
we
hilarious.
should. Right.
And dozens of foreign officials at the Trump International Hotel in Washington, D.C., 2 days before Trump's inauguration. Federal prosecutors in Manhattan are looking into whether the Trump inaugural campaign misspent funds and if donors try to buy influence in the White House. Mueller is also looking at the meeting as part of his investigation into whether foreigners contributed money to the Trump inaugural fund and PAC through American intermediaries.
There's going to be a lot of this going
like
on.
the NRA.
Open up, it's the police.
That's right. Yep. Yeah.
It's definitely coming.
So here's some info about that. The inaugural committee spent more than $1.5 million at the Trump International Hotel for the 2017 swearing-in ceremony.
How much?
The expenses included $10,000 on makeup, $30,000 in per diem payments for contract staffers, $130,000 on customized seat cushions, $2.7 million on Broadway-style rendition of Frank Sinatra's New York, New York.
Oh my God.
In the 72 days leading up to the inauguration, the committee spent a total of $100 million.
$100 million.
Inaugural committees are required to document every donation with the Federal Election Commission, and those donations are now facing legal scrutiny over who funded them.
Wow.
You know how they've been. Well, remember Maria Butina?
The
And
redhead
she's-
that's everywhere.
That's right. She's with pictures with everybody.
Yeah, she's been indicted.
So, like and what she has, the story she has to tell is how funds were donated to the NRA, and then brought through, given to him.
Yep.
Yeah. Federal prosecutors are investigating whether Trump's inaugural committee and a pro-Trump super PAC received illegal donations from individuals from Middle Eastern nations
Okay.
who are hoping to buy influence over U.S. policies. The inquiry focuses on whether people from Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates,
Arab.
the UAE, use straw donors to disguise their donations to two Trump funds. Foreign contributors to federal campaigns, political action committees, and inaugural funds are illegal.
Of course.
The inaugural committee was headed by Thomas Barrack and Paul Manafort, who was Trump's campaign chairman at the time.
And let me think, who brought Paul Manafort in? Oh yeah, that would be Mike Pence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rebuild. They believe that Barrack could help raise funds for the super PAC called Rebuilding America Now, which could collect unlimited amounts of money. Barrack said that Manafort viewed the super PAC as an arm of the campaign, despite laws meant to prevent coordination between the two. The committee raised $23 million on Trump's behalf.
Bam! Just like that. That's all there is to
A
it.
lot of money going
That's
on.
all there is to it. A winner. Just like
So
Yeah.
where that money's coming from, I didn't mean for that to be so loud, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yes, right. So there's some more too. Federal prosecutors in Manhattan are investigating whether Trump's 2017 inaugural campaign misspent the $107 million it raised, and whether some of the donors gave money in exchange for access to the incoming Trump administration,
Of course they
policy
did.
concessions, or to influence administration positions. The committee said in its tax documents that it spent $77 million on conferences, conventions, and meetings, $4 million on ticketing, $9 million on travel, $4.5 million on salary and wages and other expenses.
This is all taxpayer money.
Yes, while donated money possibly from other countries. They're looking
Possibly.
into that. Nearly a quarter of the money was paid to a firm led by a friend of Melania Trump that was formed 45 days before the inauguration.
Of course.
Yeah, so that's a shell company.
Yep.
You know.
Absolutely.
His inaugural committee won't reveal what it's doing with the tens of million dollars it pledged to charity last year.
Trump cares about one thing:
Trump.
enriching Trump and what he can get away with and what he can steal and what he can. It doesn't matter to him. It's not his. It doesn't matter. It's not his money.
Yeah, that's right. So then we have a poll. 59% of voters support raising the top tax rate to 70%, proposed by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Okay.
62% of them are women, 55% of men, 71 Democrats, 45 Republicans support the idea.
Good.
Yeah. Then we had the Attorney General nominee, William Barr. He faced questions from the Senate Judiciary Committee
Okay.
today. I watched a little bit of that, some live blogs on him doing that. What he said was that if Trump asked him to fire Mueller,
He would say no.
he would refuse and he would resign.
Right.
Just like what happened with Nixon.
Right.
When we
You know what? It's funny you brought that up because we're listening to
Bagman
Bagman
podcast.
by what's her-
Rachel Maddow.
Rachel Maddow. We have been through this kind of almost not.
Well, I would say
Not
it
like
was a worse
this.
situation though, because at that time with Spiro Agnew, who was a criminal, and Nixon, he was crook. He was a crook.
Yeah.
I mean,
Spiro Agnew. It's the first time in American history that a vice president left office in disgrace.
yeah. Well, he was offered, be convicted or resign,
Right.
and he resigned.
It was a very, very big
but then
deal. and there's
apparently
a lot-
they get him in civil court.
There's a
little bit.
lot of similarities to it. However, this is the
Well,
first.
they called it a witch hunt.
They called it a witch hunt. The language is still the same. They were going against the Justice Department. They were going against the FBI. They said the news was making up things.
Yeah, fake news.
And there were women, there were people that were there that believed him until the very end, until he walked into court.
Even after he left and resigned in disgrace, they still believed him.
They still
They
believed
still
him.
thought he got.
Gene, you
allowed
remember the
out.
whole Spiro Agnew thing with the
Yeah.
vice president leaving and everything?
Yeah.
You're a little older than us, so you probably remember that.
Yeah, well, Rachel Maddow has a podcast called Bagman where it goes through the whole thing, and they actually have the prosecutors. Like, they had these young prosecutors who were in their late 20s and early 30s who were working in Maryland and realized what he was doing, where he was accepting bribes for bids for contracts and things. And they had all this evidence, and they went to the Attorney General of the United States, and they had no idea what he was going to do.
Right.
Like, he could just say, get out of here. We're not going to do anything about this. But what he ended up doing, this guy, was he put his sleeves up. He looked at their evidence and he says, this is what we're going to do. Like, all together. It kind of just gave me goosebumps that, here he looked at these young prosecutors and said, you're not alone. Like, I am with you. So what they need to do, they knew that Nixon was dirty because the whole Watergate thing was going on at the same time. They had to get rid of Spiro Agnew first before they got rid of Nixon. Because if they got rid of Nixon, then Spiro becomes the president.
And it's harder to get him out.
Right, so they had to
have to
replace
Spiro
Spiro
first.
with Ford.
And this was 73.
Yeah, 1973. So yeah, they had to get Spiro out, replace him with Ford, then get Nixon to resign, and then Ford becomes president.
But we have been through something like this, like with Agnew, but now with Trump involving a foreign country. And policy.
Well, I don't think we've been through that before.
We've never been through something like that.
It's like a Benedict Arnold kind of
But
thing.
the criminality that we're going through now is very similar to what we were going through when Spiro Agnew left office in disgrace.
Yeah. Well, that's why Rachel did it, because she wanted to show everybody we did go through a time when these people were very guilty, and they knew they were guilty, and they were blaming the press and blaming the Democrats and blaming everyone else but themselves.
I found a great tweet from Dan Rather. What President Trump doesn't understand or acknowledge is journalists didn't ask previous presidents if they were agents for hostile foreign powers, because it was never a question anyone thought to ask. The disgrace lies not in the query, but in the plausibility of the premise.
Yeah, the fact that somebody could ask that question.
Nobody, no sitting president has ever been asked, "Are you an agent of a foreign country?"
Right.
It's never ever been done before.
Yeah.
So this is all. Like, we watch Morning Joe and we watch all these shows on MSNBC, and we're so taken back, and so are they as journalists, because we've never been through something like this before.
Mm-hmm. All right, let me run through some other headlines for you. A federal judge ordered the Trump administration to remove a citizenship question from the 2020 census.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how he put that in there?
Yes.
And that was an effort to try to intimidate people to not be counted.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have to think about this, the census is important because that tells you how many delegates there will be from every state.
Right.
So if you have
It's
a certain
based on
amount of people,
population.
right? That's why New Jersey has a lot of delegates, because we have a high population
Right.
here. So we
A
go
very
from,
dense
and then
population.
North Dakota has 2. They
Right,
don't have
right.
a lot. So if you're not counting people who live here, maybe they're guest workers or whatever they are.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not counting them, then the states aren't going to get the proper delegates.
That's right.
So that's why they threw that out. Rand Paul will travel to Canada for hernia
Which
surgery.
I find astounding.
Well,
Go ahead.
while Shouldice Hernia Hospital is privately owned, like most Canadian hospitals, it receives a majority of its funding from the Ontario government. Paul once called the idea of a national public health care system slavery.
Slavery. So
I
now
don't
you're keeping a
understand that
doctor.
reference, but-
I understand. I get it also. But
I don't understand why he's doing this, though.
I don't know.
Like, are there
And-
not good enough doctors here for him?
Maybe you can't afford the
I
American
mean, he
health care.
obviously can afford it, though.
But he's going to Canada, which I find very
It's
interesting.
very
and-
weird.
Yeah.
All right, we already talked about the bar guy testifying. Ivanka Trump will help select the next head of the World Bank.
Ivanka Trump will.
She
A
will not-
woman who designed handbags and she has this. It's so weird. The nepotism is so in everyone's faces, and no one does anything. It's amazing. Now I'll give the example I did in the car. We watch The West Wing.
Yeah.
And I know it's not exact, I know it's not dead on, but it gives an idea of what goes on in the White House, what procedures have to be followed. There's always a person behind the person behind the person trying to put out different fires, whether it's a military plane shot down or there's a ravaging forest fire, there's whatever. There's always people backing that person up, making sure things are being done right. But when the president's the one causing the problems and causing the fires and doing all this damage, and it's just being allowed to happen, we both find it astounding, like many others do in our lives too. Mm-hmm. It's just it's mind blowing to both of us.
Yep.
What are you looking for?
Well, my next story is about Steve King. So I was thinking if we could actually see his comments here, because all I can see is
You want to just go to the sheet?
this might be it right here.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, you know what though? It's kind of like, let me see if there's anything that
Are you
plays.
comfortable, Congressman, with providing $1.6 billion of taxpayer money, not from Mexico, to build that wall?
Absolutely, yes, and more. And I'd throw another $5 billion on the pile, and I would find $500 million of that right out of Planned Parenthood's budget.
See?
And the rest of it could come out of food stamps and the entitlements that are being spread out for people that haven't worked in 3 generations.
That's right.
White supremacists like Rep. Steve King. Oh, he built a model on the
I want to put
floor.
the fence in, but I want to put a wall in, and I designed one. And this just simply is the desert floor. Put a trench in that desert floor.
There's a
It's
long
total-
history of racially charged statements.
In an interview
Right.
with the New York Times, Republican Congressman Steve King defending what he called the culture of America. White nationalist, white supremacist,
Yep,
Western
yep.
civilization. How did that language become offensive, King asked.
And it would look like this, only this would be flush with the desert floor. And then you bring in precast concrete panels, 10 feet wide, 13.5 feet tall. They'd construct itself to be a 12-foot finished wall, just like that. Where did any other subgroup of
Pause that for a second.
more to civilization?
You know how you beat a 12-foot wall with a 13-foot ladder. You know what I mean? And they found the third or fourth tunnel system from Mexico to the United States.
But look at Chapo. He dug a big tunnel.
Right, and
El Chapo.
in Philadelphia recently, $1.7 million worth of fentanyl came into the port in Philadelphia. So you're going to put a wall
Well, they're saying most
around
drugs are coming
Philadelphia now?
from China by ports, by the boats. And we watched Pablo Escobar. We knew Narcos, where they made the drugs into like pottery.
Mattresses and pottery
pottery,
and-
and then you bring car fenders.
Car fenders. They were sending so much coke up in mattresses.
Yeah.
And coming here legally, crossing the border, making your dump off and, destroying the mattresses, because who cares?
Well, yeah, think about it. In order to get a huge shipment of drugs in, it's got to come by port.
Right.
Like, you can't. If somebody comes through the border, what are they going to? How much can you possibly carry?
There was a couple hundred million worth of cocaine found in the nose of an airplane.
Yeah, that's the way big drug
America
things are
doesn't
done.
need a wall. We obviously need a roof.
Yeah, we need a roof.
I think Space Force needs to get on that.
Space Force.
Space Force.
Oh, I wonder if I have Space Force.
I think we do. Don't we have Space Force?
No, not on the air.
not on here?
No,
Okay.
no, but I have Space Force.
We're gonna play a little theme song from Space Force. But we obviously America needs a roof. With,
Yeah.
So
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
it's kind of like Spaceballs when they, when the planet was protected. We need that around the United States.
Yeah.
Space Force better get on it.
Well, that's what people don't understand, that if you are, say you're coming on the caravan, and say you are a young man. A lot of them are women and children coming, and escaping. But say you're a young man and you're coming, and you're walking. How many miles are you walking? 1,000 miles?
2,000.
Right, and you're trying to make it through. Wouldn't you think after a while, if you have drugs strapped to your legs, you're like, it's not even worth it.
Fuck this.
Fuck these drugs.
You know what? You know what the problem? What's it called? Guatemala and all these countries like in South America and everything. Peru. It's failed American foreign policy. It's our interference in their government. It's the allowance of drugs to be processed and sold in America. It's the money. It's the Iran Contra. Remember the Iran Contra deal? The Contras. Where were they from? All the way back
Iran.
No. There was money went from the Contras. It went to South America.
Yeah.
With
The
Oliver
guns and
North
stuff
and
like
everything.
that.
Right. That's all American paid for, and they made it's years and decades of making these governments so corrupt that they can't function without that drug money coming in. Come on, you can't tell me we've been at war in Afghanistan for 17 years. Afghanistan is one of the highest producers of poppies in the world.
Yeah.
We have a heroin epidemic that's been, how long have we been at war in Afghanistan? 14 years?
Since 2001, right?
14, 15 years?
Yeah.
They have one of the highest importers of poppies. Poppies makes opium. Opium makes heroin, and all the drug companies,
But even if they
for
were
opium-based medications, where do you think these drugs are coming from?
even if there were huge fields of poppies in Mexico, okay, obviously you would be able to see them, number one. But even if they were, you can't transmit the amount of drugs that they're talking about by people walking, walking across the border. Where are they carrying them?
Right.
You
But
know?
it comes down to American failed foreign policy.
I was talking about Steve King because he's a racist.
He's a piece of shit.
He's a piece of
And
shit.
now we're supposed to applaud the Republicans because they call them out finally, saying that they don't support white supremacy.
All right,
so
hold
we're
on,
supposed to
let me see if
applaud
he
that
says something
now.
else. Hold on.
Then Western civilization itself, that's rooted in Western Europe, Eastern Europe, and the United States of America. Drop these panels in together in this fashion. Just like take a crane and drop them in. Our little construction company could build a mile a day of this pretty easily once you got your system going.
You cannot rebuild your civilization with somebody else's babies.
If somehow they got their economy working and got their laws working in Mexico, we could pull this back out just as easy as we could put it in.
He kept a Confederate flag on his desk, even though, again, he's from Iowa, which was on the Union side.
I also say we need to do a few
right.
One of them be to put a little bit of wire on top here too.
Okay, so anyway, finally, like you said, the Republicans said, okay, we think these comments are offensive, and we're going to pull them off every committee. So when they do that, he basically goes down to a nobody. Like, he has no power at all. Because I forget what committee he was on. Let's see. It says, after he rhetorically questioned how white nationalists, white supremacists, and Western civilization, how did that language become offensive, King was denounced by a number of prominent Republicans, including Mitch McConnell, who suggested that King find another line of work.
Well, Mitch McConnell needs to find another line of work.
Yeah. King has refused to resign and instead criticized House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, saying, Leader McCarthy's decision to remove me from committees is a political decision that ignores the truth.
Right.
So, Mitch McConnell, you remember before this whole thing with Trump, with the shutdown?
It seems like so long ago.
It does. It was, well, and now it's, what did I say? It's 24 days now. It's going on a month.
Right.
So, remember how there was bipartisan legislation to keep the government open and to continue debating about border security.
Right.
And that was approved by both the House and the Senate. And Trump signaled that he was going to sign it. And then the right-wing radio took over. Sean Hannity,
Rush Limbaugh.
Laura Ingraham, Rush Limbaugh. That's why our friend Jay Bradley should have called in. But, he he got pressured by these things that you have to do this. You have to
That's
stand
who
your
he listens
ground.
to, and that's the problem. That's the problem.
Right, because he doesn't understand the three branches of government.
He does not.
Really, the House and the Senate, these are they negotiate with each other. They come to a compromise. It's never my way or the highway. It's we have your opinions, we have yours, and we come together and you maybe have a couple beers and drink and find a solution.
You know what we listened to on the way up, Gene? How lonely Trump is in the White House. Because all the federal workers are on furlough. And besides all the people that he fucking fired, and he's like there by himself. He's like an emperor without clothes on. And nobody wants to be in that White House. And I think when he leaves, I think he's going to barricade himself in the residence. They're going to have to force him out. And they're going to have to go in there top to bottom
But
and
I have
scrub
two
the whole
thoughts on that.
fucking place
I
out.
think that's maybe happening, like Bill Maher said. But also, I think about the shitty life he's having right now. Because, before he decided to do this, because his ego told him to,
because
he
Putin
was
told
able,
him to.
Right, he was able to go out, fuck whoever he wanted on his wife, porn star, pay off porn star, whatever he was doing. Nobody was paying attention to what he was doing.
Right.
He played golf all the time. He was living the life.
He's still doing that.
Not right now. He's not.
Right.
Right now, he's basically in a prison. I think, why would he want to run again? Why would he?
Right.
You know?
I know. I want to play something about Trump talking about the wall.
Yes.
And listen to this word salad that this idiot comes up with. This is 2 days ago? 3 days ago?
Yes.
Listen to this.
They say a wall is medieval. Well, so is a wheel. A wheel is older than a wall.
What the fuck's he talking
And I
about?
looked, and every single car out there, even the really expensive ones that
Expenses?
the Secret Service uses, and believe me, they are expensive. I said, do they all have wheels? Yes. Oh, I thought it was medieval. The wheel is older than the wall. You know that?
Mr. Madison, what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Okay, a simple wrong would have done just fine, but
you remain one.
That's exactly how I feel every time he talks.
I mean, that's what you're
It's complete diarrhea of the mouth. It's total word salad. It means nothing. It means.
Remember how we used to think we still do, but Sarah Palin is really dumb, and we would think what is she talking about?
Trump is so far up Putin's ass that he could see Sarah Palin's house.
I know he can. So let's talk about what he did for the Clemson University football team.
Oh, let's listen. All right.
So we have these young people that play football.
Did you put it on here?
No.
Okay.
We have these young people that play football and who are...
They're champions.
Now, my son tells me who played offensive line that they would have loved to eat all the hamburgers. They were not approved by the FDA, obviously, because they're not working. But hopefully no one gets E. coli.
Right.
But he said the offensive line would have loved to stuff their face with as many hamburgers and hot dogs and pizza and KFC and is right there. But generally speaking, it's not fake stuff. Like, they actually do condition their bodies. These are athletes.
Right.
They do eat well.
So you had 400 pounds of fat and a table full of McDonald's. I'm saying 400 pounds of fat because that's Trump. So,
no, he's a swell of 226 pounds. Yeah.
McDonald's
said by the Candyman. Told
we were in Washington a few months ago. The McDonald's is conveniently located 2 blocks from the White House.
Right.
So they're happy as a pig in shit because they're getting all this hey, McDonald's, yeah.
Yeah.
It was, how many calories did they say it was? Like thousands of calories.
Oh, like more than that.
It was Trump's. He goes, "This is all American food. This is the best food. I like it." You come in.
They said he spent about $2,100.
So you go to the White House to eat fucking McDonald's. Why? Because the kitchen staff is on furlough because they're federal workers.
Right.
You're at the They had a comparison. Now he brought up the silver platters and what do they call it? candelabras.
Candelabras. Yeah, they
Candelabras.
had the
You know
candelabras.
the fancy silver candles with McDonald's pizza, Wendy's, Burger King.
Yeah. And this is what he got, $2,100 of shit food for these athletes.
For these athletes at the White House.
And then he said, the Washington Post said they had about 170 hamburgers. He said it was 300. And then by the end of the day, he said it was 400.
So it went up like his inauguration when Sean Spicer came out. I heard he came out of retirement saying, this was the biggest order of McDonald's in history, period.
Yeah.
You know? And then went back into the bushes and hid.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so that was really something.
Yeah. You want to do the Gene Piero thing?
Oh, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, that's pretty much, I mean, I told you, I have pages and pages of news just from today.
I know, but we have
I just wanted to tell you,
left.
we got into this for a second about Mitch McConnell. The House passed, to open the government. They passed it. Mitch McConnell blocked it.
Of course he did.
He won't even take a vote because guess what? The vote would pass. That would pass the Senate.
You know, you have
if they did a vote right now, they would vote to open the government. But then it would go up to Trump, and
Right.
Trump would not sign it. So Mitch is kind of like, what? I don't understand why we'd do this.
Well, you have Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham because Trump's balls won't lick themselves.
Yeah, I know, right?
You know.
But that's what legislation is. It's like finding a compromise, you know?
Remember Schoolhouse Rock, how a bill becomes a law, and they explained it in the cartoon? That's all.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work like that. You know, it hasn't for a very, very long time, but it certainly doesn't now.
All right, so let's go. We got about maybe 15 minutes left. or a
Okay,
little
we
bit
got
longer.
so Trump called into Jeannie, what's her name? Jeannie Piero.
Janine Pirro.
She's the cross-eyed bitch judge on Fox News who has that really like
Her voice irritates
Her voice
the shit out of
irritates me. The way she stands by Trump irritates the death out of me. But we have it broken down to 35 most astounding lines from Donald Trump, what he told and what was actually true.
All right, let's just go to it.
All right, go ahead.
Here we go.
Janine Pirro, thanks for being with us. And thanks to all of you for once again making justice
I hate her.
number
I
one
do too.
last weekend. Coming up in just a moment, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, will be calling into justice. President Trump will headline
He's
an
probably eating
all-star lineup
cheeseburgers.
tonight with House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy to
Let me
steal
see.
one.
Let me go a little
Promising
further.
more
Sense along the border, and in a lot of
Let's
places.
find out where Trump comes on.
using the military construction fund.
You see what's going
Oh,
on in
hold on.
Tijuana. They couldn't
Hold
get
on.
Case against the anti-Trump conspiracy. And joining me now by phone,
There he
the
is.
President
There he
of the
is.
United States, Donald Trump.
Ugh.
Good evening, Mr. President.
All right, it's a lie before he even starts.
Right.
Hey,
we don't
Jackson.
call him Mr. President. We call him 45 or Trump.
Yeah,
That's
he's
it.
already lying. Okay,
Go
ready?
ahead.
Hi, Janine.
Thank you so much for joining
I'm calling
us
from the
tonight.
Oval Office
Is
bathroom.
there an
By myself.
emergency at the southern border? Should we not now use the emergency funds and the powers that you have in your possession?
So we have a humanitarian crisis, to put it mildly. People are trying to get in by the tens of thousands.
First
All right.
of all, he makes it sound like Mad Max in the Thunderdome is trying to cross over the border.
Yeah.
It's just not true. It's not true.
No.
Have reportedly tried to amp up the idea of thousands of people, including criminals, streaming over the border. The Washington Post fact checker debunked lots of their most common claims. And here we go.
There we go. Okay, ready?
They're rushing the border. There's right now in Honduras, a country we pay a lot of money to, I think foolishly, because they don't help us. But right now you have another caravan forming, and it's going to be the biggest one yet. We stopped the last one.
Okay. So he's talking about a caravan that is set to begin its journey from Honduras on Tuesday. Remember that many people in these caravans have no intention of making it to the United States. These caravans have been used in the past largely to draw attention to people's plights in their native countries.
That's right.
So they are trying to escape, but they do realize that the chances of them coming into the United States are very slim to none. They do.
Continue.
Okay.
I'll do the
See
next
what's
one.
going on in Tijuana. They couldn't get through because we have a wall there, got a wall up. The military has been fantastic. Border Patrol has been incredible.
Oh, wait.
And
Pause this. They're not being paid, by the way.
No.
Border Patrol, and I think now U.S. military is not being.
Well, the military is. The Coast Guard isn't, because the Coast Guard is not part of the military.
But the Border Patrol isn't.
Right. Because that's Homeland Security.
Right.
So that's not. They're not being paid along with TSA.
Okay, guys.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine what the airports are like right now? I mean, already the
It's
TSA.
probably like
how pissed off they are.
It's probably like the movie Airplane, where people were coming through with guns, and then the grandma comes through and they throw her against the wall.
Right. Okay, I'm sure that's what's happening.
These are brave people that do a great job. And we stop them, but there's another big one forming. We need a wall, very simple. Whether you call it a steel barrier,
it's just not true.
Wall, doesn't matter, but we need a very strong structure.
But by waiting to build a wall or using those funds that are available to you in a national emergency, aren't you negating the point of the emergency itself?
Exactly. And although I hate her, she makes a good point. An emergency is an immediate like he doesn't understand the definition of emergency. Emergency means right now. It's not like wait to see if I can get this passed, and if I can't, then it's an emergency. That's not what emergency means.
Do we have an emergency going on right now? I'm trying to think. What's it called? Michigan? In Flint.
Yes.
Where they have no water for the past 3 years.
Right. The water.
Parts of California are destroyed. Puerto Rico still isn't rebuilt. Those are emergencies.
Yeah, when people are dying because they can't take medication, they can't drink the water, that is an emergency.
Mad Max in the Thunderdome 2,000 miles away is not an emergency.
No.
Press one.
Well, I have the absolute right to call a national emergency. Other presidents have called many national emergencies for things of lesser importance, frankly, than this, and I have the right to do it. I'd rather see the Democrats come back from their vacation and act.
Okay. Trump is referring to a delegation of 30 House members who traveled to Puerto Rico for an event organized by the political arm of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Worth noting, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the main negotiator for the House Democrats, was not on the trip.
Right. So, if he wants to negotiate, he should invite her up.
Right.
And not for a photo op.
Right.
But to work things out, to compromise.
Exactly.
They're not acting, and they're the ones that are holding it up. It would take me 15 minutes to get a deal done, and everybody could go back to work. But I'd like to see them act responsibly, and they're not acting responsibly, and that's it. We could be. I'm in the
anything
White House,
he's doing is not responsible.
Most of them are in different locations. They're watching a certain musical in a very nice location.
He's talking about Hamilton, because this is a caucus for the Hispanics in Puerto Rico, and it's also a fundraiser, and also the 30 Democrats who went there paid their own way to go.
Why are they having a fundraiser? Because
they don't have any money.
The federal government, they're part of the United States.
They are.
Has dropped the ball big time on Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
and that came after why slowly at Trump.
Yeah, he's acting like that they're on vacation, but they're actually
they're not.
They pay their own way to go there. Now, yes, Lin-Manuel and Hamilton came there to perform for them for free, which I think is awesome. Because I would like to go see Hamilton.
Do you know how much Hamilton tickets are? Right.
Are you buying them?
No.
Damn it.
We'll go see Hamilton like in Brick Memorial High School for $15.
I know. It's like $500 a ticket.
I know.
But
that's why they can afford.
Lin-Manuel is very political, so
that's why they can afford to do it for free.
Yes,
it's very charitable.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Of course, in Puerto Rico, watching
frankly,
Hamilton.
it's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. We have a very important thing to do. We have to have border security, and we have to get people getting paid again very quickly.
But what about, as this happens, look, you were in the White House during the Christmas holidays and over New Year's, and you've been there ever since. Nancy Pelosi's in Hawaii over the holidays. Now she's in Puerto Rico with a bunch.
And she wasn't. Janine Pirro had to issue a statement that she told a mistruth there.
Right, and I haven't actually left the White House.
Hold on, that's his statement, so wait a second.
Oh, go ahead.
Of Democrats and lobbyists, enjoying the sun and partying down there. But what makes you think that these people are willing to cut a deal if you have shown your ability to negotiate by changing to a
He has no
agreeing
ability
to
to
all of their
negotiate.
demands as it relates to, technology, electronic fencing, and all of the other things, the humanitarian aid. They sit there. They don't even look you in the eye? What makes you think that they're going to, in any way, cave? Because if these people said 13 and then again 6 years ago, we need a wall, but now you're the president, they don't want a wall, what makes you think they're coming back?
Well, they might not. I mean, frankly, I was willing to do something, and we're asking for $5.6 billion, which is way less than what other presidents have been talking about. If you look back, this should have been done 30 years ago.
Okay, number 4.
Number 4. I was willing to do something, and we're asking for $5.6 billion, which is way less than the other presidents have.
That's what he just said, right?
It's not at all clear to me who Trump is referring to here. No past president has said we need to build a wall on the southern border. Trump's pledge to do so is what made him stand out in the 2016 GOP field.
Ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, this should have been done by others. Just like if you look at Jerusalem, if you look at the embassy moving to Jerusalem, every president promised that. They never did it. I did it. You look at so many other things that I've done. We're doing well with a lot of, we're doing well with China. We're doing
he
well
is in
with
his
North
own
Korea.
mind.
We're
He's
doing,
so delusional.
I was left a very tough hand.
Yeah.
But this was one of the problems. It's our southern border, and it's, thousands and thousands of people are
it's
coming
not.
in, and we have human smugglers, we have traffickers, we have people, the biggest drug dealers in the world. And
Untrue. Who is the biggest drug dealer in the world? David.
Who is the biggest drug dealer?
Yeah.
America.
Well, specifically the pharmaceutical.
The
industry
pharmaceutical absolutely.
is the biggest drug dealer
It's
in
a
the world.
multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
They're pouring through the parts of the border. They don't go through your areas where you have a port of entry, Janine. They go through areas where you don't have any protection whatsoever. And it's really very sad and very, very dangerous and very bad for our country. A lot of crime comes from that location.
I interviewed Ron Vitello, the acting director of ICE, and he said that there was enough fentanyl seized by them last year that could kill every American in this country.
Again, what about the fentanyl that was just seized in Philadelphia?
Border. Yeah. And what we also know is that there are 800,000 federal employees who didn't get a check yesterday. You're sitting there waiting for a deal. The Democrats are not sitting with you. If this isn't an emergency, I don't know what is.
Well, I haven't actually left the White House in months, and
That's not true. He has lots of times. Hell, he was in McAllen, Texas, 2 days before he said this.
in all fairness, I'm doing a lot of other work. It's not
Yeah. I mean, fair is fair.
Right.
just that, but that's a very important element of what I'm doing because we have to get the southern border done. And I've been here virtually every night, I guess every night, other than one day I flew to Iraq and then to Germany to see our troops.
Yes.
And it was great to see them. Was great. The level of love they have for this country is incredible. So I flew and then came back. I'm not even sure I actually missed a night per se, but basically I've been here for many months in the White House.
Again, it's not true.
No.
It's just not true.
I'm a worker. I'm like you. I'm a worker.
You are
and
a worker.
Frankly, I'm
She's such a kiss ass. She really
ready,
is.
willing, and able to get a deal done, but they don't seem they think it's politics. I think it's bad politics. This country wants to have protection at the border. Many of our crimes, much of MS-13 comes through the border. Drugs, a big proportion of the drugs from that we have from this country in this country come through the border.
Wrong.
The human trafficking where they tie women up, they put duct tape over their mouth, electrical tape, and they bring them in, they traffic in women and children, and they come through the border. The areas that I'm talking about, everywhere we won. But, I'm one person, and the House had many races, and yet we won some great races where I went. But we won the Senate, we picked up 2 additional seats. It's 50.
You did not win the Senate.
No, his victim complex is strong on display here.
Yes.
The reason Republicans won Senate seats is because Democrats had to defend 26 states, including 10 where Trump won in 2016.
That's right.
So it was a dream map for Republicans. That they only won 2 seats, that actually says a lot.
See,
there were
this
5
is-
states Trump won by double digits where Democrat incumbents were running is the real story.
This is what you need to run along. Gene, we're going to go a few more minutes, okay?
Well, we didn't start until we started at 40.
Okay. Ow. So this is what we need. What needs to happen? It does happen sometimes on the shows where, what's his name from Sunday mornings? He's doing it now a lot too. Remember who did you like?
Well, Tim Russert.
Tim Russert. We love the Tim Russert.
Bless
We know he's
his
passed
soul.
away.
I mean, that man was awesome. He always had a video. That's what got me into Meet the Press.
Right.
When I was a little kid.
Because he would always have the video. Somebody would say something. Well, I never said that. I don't feel that
He's
way.
like, oh, really? What about this time? You know,
Right.
like, ooh. Like, and then
See,
the
that's what
people.
they should have done during the conventions and during all that time. Anytime Trump speaks now, they should have it fact-checked automatically.
And he's got a tweet for everything that's contradictory to whatever he's
Right.
saying now. You know, like there's a tweet when the government shut down during Obama, and he said Obama is 100% responsible and that he should resign.
Right.
You know.
If Obama built a wall, Trump would be tearing it down.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
53-47. It was 51-49.
All right, so for the last time, given that they don't seem to want to come to the table, that you have done all the negotiating, why not declare?
Well, that might happen, but I want to give them a chance to see if they can act responsibly.
Okay.
They should act responsibly. We're talking about the
He's
border.
talking about
and
acting
I have to say,
responsibly?
a lot of the people that aren't getting their checks are letting us know, we don't care. You've got to solve the crisis at the border. It's human.
Serious question. How does Trump know this? Are federal workers emailing him somehow? He doesn't email.
No, he doesn't email.
Is he somehow running into them while walking around Washington?
He doesn't do that.
Or possibly is he just, saying it? Because he doesn't think.
You know, he says, people are saying.
People are saying, I hear this. I've read this. First of all, you don't read.
No.
People are saying, these people have told me. This one told.
Yeah, like,
Ooh,
I would like
who are
to
these
know.
people?
You know how he has mysterious friends named Jim?
Right.
He's like, my friend Jim went to Paris and said he's not going back anymore. And they're like, who's your friend Jim?
Who's Jim?
Yeah. Same thing. Like, people are saying, federal workers are saying.
Trump has no friends, and this was proven.
And what person would say that they're okay not having a paycheck?
A paycheck to wait for the wall.
Yeah, and I told you about.
Nobody is saying that.
The farmer that I met, the soybean farmer, when I asked him about.
That's somebody that you actually met.
Yes. So, I asked him, what happened to the crop? He wasn't able to sell it, and I said, I understand how hard it is to be a farmer in the United States or probably anywhere. And why should you have to shoulder the burden of this administration?
Right.
You're being asked to sacrifice. And he's like, I'm happy to do it.
Well,
it's
I hope you lose your farm. I hope you lose the whole thing that's been in your family for generations.
Yes, and it has been
I hope you go
generations.
bankrupt with your MAGA hat on and your family's out in the street because you still support somebody like this.
Yeah, and the contract that he had with China is never coming back.
Never coming back.
No. So he's
Never.
got to either switch crops or find a new buyer at this point.
I just don't understand it. I'll never get why there's still supporters. Again, it's Bird Box with people walking around with blindfolds on.
Yeah, okay.
Humanitarian crisis and it's national security. It's very important.
Okay, and it's interesting. That's what I heard yesterday from some of the Border Patrol agents. Now, I want to move on to another subject. New York Times reported that the FBI opened a counterintelligence investigation the day after you fired James Comey in May of 17. And the investigation was whether you were actively working for Russia.
Notice how she's laughing. How she's setting this question up and she's laughing.
Or unwittingly. So I'm going to ask you, are you now or have you ever worked for Russia, Mr. President?
I think it's the most insulting thing I've ever been asked. I think it's the most insulting article I've ever had written. And if you read the article, you'd see that they found absolutely nothing. But the headline of that article, it's called The Failing New York Times for a reason. They've gotten me wrong for 3 years. They've actually got...
Not exactly a definitive answer.
No. Now, he did answer the question today. Somebody from MSNBC, I think Kristen Walker, yelled out and said, are you a Russian agent? Answer yes or no. And he's like, no, I'm not, and you already know the answer to that question.
Why did you ask me that? I'm insulted you asked me that.
But the fact that they had to ask,
We have losers. We have losers.
Go ahead.
Gotten me wrong for many years before that. But you look at what's going on. You know, I fired James Comey. I call him Lion James Comey.
Oh, wait, stop it for a minute. When he said the failing New York Times, all my life I've had very few stories, but I've had some on the front page of the New York Times. Now I think average about 3 or 4 a day, right? And of these 3 or 4, they're all negative. No matter what I do, they're negative. But you know what? That's okay. I still love the paper.
I'm sure he does love the paper because he's a New Yorker, and the New Yorkers love the New York Times. It is a dynasty, you know.
He's going to say next that he's been tougher on Russia, right?
He was a terrible liar, and he did a terrible job as the FBI director. Look at what happened with Hillary Clinton and the emails and the Hillary Clinton investigation. One of the biggest screw-ups that anybody's ever seen as an investigation.
What about isms?
And what happened after I fired him? Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, his lover Lisa Page, they did it. And, you know, they're all gone. Most of those people, many, many people from the top ranks of the FBI, they've all been fired or they had to leave.
Stop.
And they're all gone. This
Stop
is
that
what
for a
they
second.
were talking about.
Who's left the Trump administration? I'm sure the list is triple the size of who has left the FBI.
Now, you know, with Lisa Strzok and Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, what they did, I mean, they were having an illicit affair, and they were texting back and forth on their government phones.
Right.
And who knows what they read? It must have been pretty salacious stuff.
Oh, I know.
But in there, they talked about Trump and what an idiot he was, and that they didn't want him to be president, and they were fearful of him being president. You know, and they did say all those things. They were their personal thoughts.
Right. We can't play this whole thing.
No.
But if
I just want to get to, I think we covered it pretty much about the Russia thing.
Right, but if people are interested, it's on YouTube. And then we got the breakdown on it from The Point with Chris
Oh, this is
Cillizza.
right. So this is CNN.
This is CNN.
Right. So Chris Cillizza is an op-ed for CNN.
Okay.
But he's using Washington Post fact checker because they debunked every single statement.
Every single statement he said was an absolute lie or exaggeration, like
so
everything
many
else.
Like I don't even think he knows when he's lying at this point.
No.
Yeah.
I just and I just want to go back to the athletes for a minute. There was 2 pictures that were very different. It was Michelle Obama in her garden, handing out fresh vegetables. That Trump ripped out the garden. That garden no longer exists.
I know. There's no garden there.
And then there's another picture.
And she used to bring the kids to the garden.
Yeah.
And, you know.
He ripped out the swing set, that old tree. He's just
that is just so horrible, isn't it?
He's such a, what's the word I'm looking for? He's all about himself. He's a very shallow person. He's a very compromised person. And we never had to deal with a lot of the things that we're dealing with out of this administration.
No.
And it'll be really years before we get any type of world respect back.
Yeah. You're serious. Well, we're going to close out, but before we do, I want to tell you when our next show is, David.
Okay.
And our next show will be February 5th.
February 5th?
February 5th.
You got that, Gene? February 5th.
That's the first. We are on the 1st and the 3rd Tuesdays for now.
For now.
Yes. 1st and 3rd Tuesdays.
And I'm sure Trump will do more destruction and damage to the country.
Gosh.
And there'll be more coming out about
listen,
it.
We haven't been on for a month. And you told me to gather up a month's worth of news. That would have been
Gene, we would be on till 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I was like, I got one day. That's all I got.
All we got is one day.
Yeah.
So, thank you for the 2 people who were watching us. And
would you have it on?
No.
Okay. We have more people than
I
that.
did not talk about fresh balls tonight, but it's okay.
Well, I mean, real quick, we can say that we do have a sponsor. It's Fresh Balls. If you're interested in having fresh balls,
and fresh feet.
And fresh
feet. Did
feet.
you try it, Gene?
I use it.
Did you try it?
I've been using it.
How are your balls? Fresh?
Yeah, very fresh.
See?
Yeah, it's a
They have
good
fresh
product.
feet. It's
American made. American product.
No parabens.
No.
Parabens?
No parabens or talc.
It
Talc.
goes on like a cream and dries like a powder.
Yes.
My balls don't stick.
No.
Even
that's very important to you.
Very important to me. You can be walking funny trying to get your balls off.
Is that what happens?
It does.
So when I see a guy walking funny with his legs like his legs are like horseback.
See how it just went from up here to way down here.
I have questions about this.
It was so quick.
So like a guy's walking like horseback stance. You know, he's trying to like shake his leg off.
Shake his ball off his leg. Probably
And how often
sticky.
does this happen? Just in
Say,
the
do you use
summertime
fresh
or
balls?
just? I'm going to say that.
You should. You
Yeah.
should carry one an extra tube. This might help your
I have
sticky
one in
ball
my car.
situation. Just in case. All right, so that's it from us, Gene. Thank you for working the boards, being patient and awesome as usual, and thank you for watching. That's it.
Bye.